Okay, we're on to our second speaker today. Our second speakers are Siobhan O'Neill from UCC and Laura Lee. And you understand Siobhan is leading this particular presentation. It's design and implementation of a professional development offering for an inclusive assessment in higher education. Siobhan, the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks very much, Terry. So I'm just going to share my slides. Can everyone see that okay?
Yes, that's great.
Perfect, great. So thank you all for being here today. And as Terry mentioned, I'm going to be talking about the design and implementation of a professional development offering for inclusive assessment in higher education. So this is actually a project initiative funded by the National Forum under the Strategic Alignment for Teaching and Learning Enhancement 2020 Fund, otherwise known as the SATL Fund. And it's work that myself and my colleague, Dr. Laura Lee, have been working on since June of last year. So I suppose the reason why this project or this initiative came about was due to an express need from staff who were undertaking the digital badge in universal design for learning, which is actually facilitated by Laura and by colleague Dr. Brian Butler. And they actually have a presentation next in this lightning session, which will be delivered by Laura. So, okay, my slides aren't moving on there. 1 second. There we go. So I suppose for the purposes of this initiative, it was important for us, I suppose, to first define what we mean by inclusive assessment, because currently there is no, I suppose, one agreed upon definition in the literature. So Laura and I explored different available definitions and agreed upon a definition that for this initiative, I suppose, which is an amalgamation of a number of different definitions that can be found both in, say, the literature and in practice as well. So for the purposes of our initiative, inclusive assessment practices are those that are designed to engage all students, allowing equity of opportunity to succeed and demonstrate learning, reducing the need for individual adaptations for specific students. And these practices also utilize flexible methods that address barriers to the expression of knowledge and supports the diversity of the student population. So this is kind of the definition that we have run with underpinning the whole initiative. So I suppose secondly, then it was really important for us to get an understanding of the UCC landscape itself before starting the development of the CPD course. So to do this, we conducted a staff survey for which we obtained ethical approval. And this survey was actually influenced by a recent publication by Siobhan O'Neill and Lisa Padden from UCD. So if you were at the workshop earlier today, you would have seen some of the results of that survey with which we've kind of based ours on. So this survey specifically for us examined firstly staff understanding of inclusive assessment. Did they have an understanding already of what inclusive assessment was, or is it completely new to them? Their current practices, the barriers and enablers to using inclusive assessment, and then finally what forms of training and supports would be most useful for them if they were to implement inclusive assessment. So the survey was sent out in September of 2021 and we had 116 responses. So although the response rate was slightly low, it was very similar to the rate in the O'Neill and Padden paper. And, you know, it really did give us an insight into the UCC landscape in relation to inclusive assessment. So it was really beneficial for us. So similarly to the O'Neill and Padden paper, the barriers that staff identified in UCC were things around resourcing and time, and then also a lack of example from their disciplines to be able to implement inclusive assessments. And then conversely, I suppose, enablers for the implementation of inclusive assessment for the survey respondents were the availability of discipline-specific examples, institutional supports, which, for example, access to learning technologists or increased resourcing and allocation around kind of marking and so on. And then finally, training, workshops and mentoring as well was highlighted as an enabler for staff. So based on the results of this survey, we also conducted a literature review in the area of inclusive assessment, and we conducted discussions, I suppose, with colleagues and staff from all across Ireland and Northern Ireland who are working in this area and have already done fantastic work in this area, I suppose. And we, based on all of this information, we've drafted the staff professional development offering. And this course is predicated on the Universal Design for Learning framework as well, which is really important. So that underpins the whole course, I suppose. And this course actually has 2 pathways, and this is based on the staff feedback. So staff wanted the ability to choose how they were going to engage with this CPD offering. So firstly, the first pathway is just a self-directed Canvas course, which is UCC's VLE. And this course covers topics like inclusive assessment with examples, both discipline specific and more general. It also has an overview of UDL, and information around academic integrity, and then as well navigating the UCC process for changing modules and changing assessments. The second pathway then is a digital badge course, which comprises the self-directed Canvas course, but also includes an interactive workshop and then a redesign activity as well. So for us, it was really important to ensure we were capturing the voice of staff and students across the university community. So due to this, we obtained feedback from staff on the Canvas course from across both academic and support services, and we're currently awaiting the student feedback on that Canvas course. So currently we're at the stage where we are editing our Canvas course to reflect the feedback we've gained already, and we're currently in the process of creating our workshops. So this will be piloted to staff in April, and we're hoping to launch the final iteration of the first edition, I suppose, of this course at the end of May. So I just want to thank you all for your attention. I know I've gone slightly over the 6 minutes there, and our contact details are here as well, if you want to follow up with us at a later date, and happy to answer any questions now.
Siobhan, thank you very much. And you were just within time. Tucky's very pleased. So thank you very much. Dara has a question there, but I have one before it. I love having the 2 pathways, because we've certainly found in a lot of the work we did, sometimes staff just want to find out more themselves without having to go through the process of getting recognition and doing the extra bit, like the digital badge involves, and having those 2 pathways, absolutely superb. The second thing is, I'm interested in the examples that you got from the different disciplines and how you evaluated them. How did you get buy-in to do those? How did you choose them? And what were you looking for? If you could say a little bit more about that. Yeah,
so I suppose we're in a great position that we're running the UDL digital badge in UCC. So Laura and Brian run that twice a year in each semester, and part of that activity is a redesign element that incorporates UDL, and students are asked, or participants are asked, if they're willing to share that information to others, and a lot of the times that redesign element is based on assessment. So we were lucky that we had kind of already a source of case studies that are incorporating UDL inclusive assessment elements. So we contacted those staff members and asked if they would be willing to share that work on this course. So, we are kind of utilizing what's already there and the amazing work that colleagues are already doing across the university in this space. Especially, I suppose, it's not always clear what inclusive assessment is, and sometimes colleagues are doing amazing amounts of work there, but they don't really know that it falls under that remit. So we had that source for us.
Brilliant. And Dara's asking there, in terms of inclusive assessment, what were you defining as inclusive? Was it primarily based around offering choice or a broader view?
It's a broader view, so it does include choice, but it also kind of incorporates the, I suppose, multiple means of action and expression as a whole, that guideline. So it's looking at ways in which we can allow students to, I suppose, express their knowledge and, I suppose, the learning outcomes of the modules in different ways. So, I suppose our first thing is for staff, especially if they're new to this, is, you know, start small. Think about the small things that you can do. So for example, if you have, say, an essay, incorporate different essay questions rather than, you know, just one option for students, and those sorts of things. And then hopefully building upon that for more, I suppose, broader inclusivity. So for, you know, offering choice between maybe an essay or a presentation or something like that. So it does incorporate choice, but it is hopefully a little bit broader than that as well.
Okay, and you're piloting it now?
So we're piloting it next month. So we're hopefully we'll get feedback from staff and students again around that, so that we can you know, incorporate that feedback again before it's launched in May. I suppose with these courses, it's always going to be an iterative process as well. So we're going to always garner feedback from staff as they're going through the process to see what we can change and how we can best support them.
Yeah, and what you call it, the going back to my National Forum days, because it's funded under SATL, it means that it's going to be open so that other institutions are going to be able to, so once you've piloted it and you've got a version of it, other institutions are going to be able to take that and use it if they'd like and adapt it for their own context. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct, exactly. Yeah.
And so Laura's just replied there, because yesterday I spent my whole time saying you've got to come back in 2023 and tell us how it went. And again, I'm saying you've got to come back in 2023 and tell us how it went. But Dara's already said there, you'll have to write this up in the Ahead Journal later in the year. That's very interesting.
Definitely. As Laura said, we would be happy to do that.
Brilliant and well done. And thank you very, very much, Siobhan.